Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's good to be back with you. You can download your workbook here in the URL on the front, or go to the chat where Chris will have a link for you to just click on and download right onto your computer right now. This has been a really fun series. I've enjoyed this conversation that we've had on a weekly basis. And tonight we're going to take on self-worth. I'm calling on you to do hard tonight, to join so that you can be a part of this, and I can see your face, and that just helps so much when we're going through this. If you can, any way possible. I know there's going to be times when you can't. If there's any way possible that you can. It's deeply appreciated, especially on my end. Had a conversation with someone who said, well, I don't want people seeing me. And I'm going to state this again because I've said it to you before. We'd be less concerned about what people think about us if we know how little they actually do. Nice. Here, you've got a question.
Oh, wow, I get to be first. Sweet. Thank you. I I've been watching nearly every recording, I think, and just learned something from everyone. So thank you for everyone who's contributed. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. Um, I have been, and I need some, I need help. Um, you told me I've been struggling with getting to uh let's see. I have a habit of I'm very clear about my overwhelm. I'm overwhelmed with everything I have to do. I am now aware that I set my expectations way too high. Um and I'm constantly thinking I'm not getting enough done because I have too much to do. And you had mentioned to me to write down what I have to do, tear it in half, and then tear it in half again. And I've been trying to do a power session where I work through for 30 minutes and set a timer. I've literally probably only tried it literally a few times. It's painful for me to do.
Hmm.
And then when I do it, somehow the alarm gets sabotaged and I don't hear it, or it's on mute or whatever. It's really uncanny. Um, So when I do try, I usually fail at it. And I have yet to be able to write down a list and tear it because it occurs to me as I have another thing to do to write a list that I can tear, because my actual calendar is in a book that I write down. And I don't want to tear this sheet because this is like my daily calendar. So I don't want to tear this sheet. So if I have to write another sheet and tear that, then that's just another thing to do that overwhelms me.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? So I'm resisting writing another list, tearing the list. I get the idea behind tearing the list and tearing it in half, but then it's just another thing to do. And I don't know. I'm coming up with all these blocks and I'm keeping myself stuck with all the things to do,
I'm,
and
ru-
then
I'm
feeling
rushing
like
close
I'm
enough now.
never doing enough and never meeting my own expectations, of maybe of which other people would have completely unrealistic expectations. I don't know what other people's real expectations of themselves are, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm looking up your assessment while I'm listening, so I'm not distracted. I want to get this.
Like, there's always I have a hard time shutting off everything else there is to do other than just doing what matters most first, next. It's always in the background going, but you didn't get this done and you didn't get that.
Well, I have a couple of questions for you, first of
And,
all.
and then
Okay,
at 2 a.m., then I hear the
okay, here's a question for you. Is there a reason why you're trying to get this done? Because sometimes we want to learn how to do things differently. And sometimes we're going to want to look at what you're trying to get to as a destination. For example, if someone has a financial crisis and the mortgage needs to get paid, and if it's not paid, it's going to go into foreclosure. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that as an example. there's a whole nother reason for the craziness of busy, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any financial challenges you need to get to by a certain deadline that if you don't get there, it could be dangerous?
I have nothing life-threatening, no. In fact, no, the exact opposite. And I, no, I don't have anything threatening. I have a goal I'd like to keep in my business. I want to stay at this level, and noticing that it's harder and harder to stay at that level these days
Mhm.
causes me urgency because I have this goal set that I can't fall below this level because I need to contribute to my household and make, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
so that's driving me, but nothing,
There's a
no,
little, there's a
there's
little,
no impending doom, you know?
there's a little fear in the need to meet to each month I got to keep doing.
Hmm.
Have you ever been in a business like this before, or did you have a job before this?
I was a chiropractor and I had a monthly, I was always monitoring things monthly, like how many patient visits or how much collection. Everything has always been monthly. I've never been on my own in my own business.
Mhm.
No longer licensed and have a staff, which creates a lot less stress in some areas, but more in other areas because it's all me, me, and me. It's me, me, and myself. So I don't have anyone to rely on to help me meet my minimum goals, but me.
Okay. Okay, this is good. Yeah. Everybody listening, get out a piece of paper and a pencil because you're going to be taking a pen and take some notes because the number one cause for self-esteem challenges is an unmet expectation.
Hmm.
We're going to talk about something we've discussed over the last 3 weeks, but now a little bit more targeted for everyone. It is time for us to shift fundamentally one thing. Because what you do know is that when you're trying to get so much done, it's called switch tasking. It's not multitasking. People say, well, I'm a multitasker. I can do a lot of stuff. No, we switch task. And when we switch task, the quality goes down, the anxiety goes up, the productivity drops. That's the research out of UCLA. It doesn't work. We stay focused on one task at a time, and we've let all of our efforts, all of our energy help us forget all else. It's a fundamental shift. And Amy, this will be an interesting one for you because you
I
got,
understand the concept cerebrally.
well, here's the bottom line. We can get really addicted to spending time in our mind
Hmm.
and then trying to get reality to catch up, to keep up. And it can't. This is called linear time. Now, that frenetic energy, may I share your assessment? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
So, all of you
Yeah.
go to personal fulfillment because some of you are over here just like Amy is here in frantic. That's what you were just describing. It was all over the place, like a chicken with my head cut off, a dog chasing my tail.
Correct. I'm aware of it now that I see it all. Yeah. Hmm.
And now you're aware that it's happening, but it's still happening.
Hmm.
Just to take some pressure off, number one, there is a disconnect between the speed the mind creates and the speed with which we can create intangible reality, linear time. That's the disconnect. Your mind is just trying to figure out how to get this to speed up to get everything done that it's already seen done.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm fantastical and I can see
So you can see.
exactly.
Everybody got that? So we're
Hmm.
over here and we're in this space. That's one. The next one is really tender. We're going to talk about this in our Team Brave training on Saturday. When we go into that fantastical space and we see those possibilities, not only do we create an expectation, we experience dopamine and norepinephrine. We have any nurses on this call tonight? I think I saw Karen Buxman, just for one of them. When you have that dopamine and norepinephrine coursing through your body, it is a euphoric drug. It's like heroin. It's uh, it's addictive. Is there any chance,
Yes.
Amy? I'm kind of addicted to that thrill. Okay. Now, there's my thrill. Now I'm consigned to tangible reality, trying to create it. And part of it is I'm trying to get done what my mind has already seen, but I'm also trying to experience that dopamine hit in reality, and it won't happen. We have a real dangerous problem in our country right now, especially right here, just as much here as anywhere else, where right after COVID, things were kind of exciting. There's a lot of money flowing, things were happening very quickly for many people. And we got addicted to the dopamine and norepinephrine. And now we're back to normal creation mode, and there's no dopamine or norepinephrine. All of a sudden, people look at shiny objects in hopes that somehow they can get that feeling back. So it's kind of a combination both of recalibrating for the now and also overcoming a drug addiction.
It is a love-hate situation because you know you're gonna hate it when you feel you it I understand completely that it's a drug.
Fantasy catastrophe. You can't, you do that, you get this. So the love-hate relationship is
Hmm.
lying in bed at night, it's 10:30 at night, and I'm imagining something really exciting. I get the dopamine and norepinephrine hit. If I do that, then there's a consciousness that comes, Amy, that sounds like this. I'm not going to go there tonight. Oh, does your mind want to go there? It needs
Hmm.
to feel that feeling. We call it hope. It's counterfeit hope. It's counterfeit joy. It's not real. David Hawkins, in his book, Power versus Force, says that drug addicts are not addicted to the drug. They're addicted to the euphoria the drug takes them to,
Hmm.
with this caveat, which they have not yet earned. Enlightenment, he said, enlightenment, which they have not yet earned. They love the enlightenment, so the drug takes them to the enlightenment. They're not addicted to the drug, they're addicted to the where the journey takes them, and they want to be back there. And interesting with drugs, they just take us generally even lower than we were. I mean, we just get worse and worse. So
Hmm.
we'll focus for a moment on drug addiction and also the transition to creation. For us to finally experience joy, real joy, not counterfeit joy, it requires a couple of fundamental decisions. Decision number one, I'm going to stop living in my mind and holding life hostage. Nothing good ever comes out of that. Well, aren't I supposed to dream? Yes, dream, but not fantasize. Dream is there's my target, that's where I'm headed, but I stay here in the now looking at it and getting clear on all the steps needed to actually create the dream because I actually want to experience the dream in tangible reality. Real money in a real bank account with which I can buy a real couch. I hope you smile when I said that. Real money in a real bank account with which I can buy a real couch. So I'm working toward buying a real couch if that's my dream. That could be in place of anything. When I go beyond there and start imagining what's going to be like to have parties at my house with a new couch, I'm in fantasy. But that's where the dopamine and norepinephrine come. So it's really tempting to go there and spend that time. There's a fundamental decision to pay the price to get out of the drug addiction. It can be just a tad bit depressing at first. Let's be okay with that. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to be looking at my target in the now. I'm going to apply the principle of structural tension from element number 3. And I'm going to be looking at this and going, okay, what's the reality of my life? We did two exercises over the last 3 weeks where we got really real about where we are. I choose me. What you're saying is, I choose what's real so that I can create more with it. Because we can't create from fantasy. So we get real. Most of us don't like what's real, so that's going to push us a little bit forward. We're clear on the dream. That's going to pull us. And some of us have fantasies, but we don't really have dreams. We have fantasies. Fantasy is a place I like to escape to. A dream is something I want to create. Just write that down so it's clear on your notes. A fantasy is a place I want to escape to. A dream is something I actually want to create. So I'm going to break it down into millimeters because I know between where I am and where I want to be are just baby steps, millimeters. That's all. It's not complicated. What's complicated is when I'm addicted to norepinephrine and dopamine, and I just want to keep escaping the work and trying to experience emotionally what it's going to be like. Og called that trying to put tomorrow's gold in today's purse. It's a wonderful poetic way of saying it. So we get into the now, we take the first millimeter. We don't start with the second one because the second one doesn't matter till the first one's created. True? So we start working on the first millimeter. We get an inspired idea. Now, this isn't new for you. I'm just re-emphasizing this because it's a critical piece of self-esteem. By far, the number one cause of self-esteem challenges when an expectation is unmet. So we're not going to create expectations. We're going to get an inspired idea about how we're going to create this millimeter, and that's going to ignite our passion. We talked about the functional MRI. If the tab's on your head, we'd register a gamma spike, an immersive brainwave that ignites our passion. I was talking with a gentleman the other day, and he was talking about wanting a job where he could feel more passion. And I said, define passion. What do you think you said, Amy?
That excitement.
He was
And
describing norepinephrine and dopamine.
yes, I am totally get that. I am so into that feeling. When I get an inspired moment, I'm like on it, yes, this is gonna be fun. And yeah, I'm clear. That's a drug for me. Like now.
Get a bit of that on an inspired idea.
But is that bad? Because that's my inspired idea. So that makes me happy, right?
You get excited about creating it, ignites passion. But by definition, passion is because of that excitement, I am willing to suffer
Mm-hmm. And I suffer.
for something I love.
Yeah.
And that's the good part. This is how creation works.
But then I take it too far and do too much and like I don't moderate
We'll
myself.
get there. We'll get there. Just be with me for a minute because we'll get to the too much in a moment. If we focus on just the millimeter and we're doing the work, for some on this call, the work is boring, mundane, burdensome, repetitive, and hard because we've used our vivid visualization in fantasy. If we use it in a millimeter, it's going to ignite our passion, drive our action. But passion is always a willingness to suffer for something I love. It's not boring, mundane, burdensome, repetitive, and hard because it lit up something on our brain. That feeling you're talking about, Amy, that's a great feeling, but it doesn't preclude us from doing the work. What sometimes causes the frenetic behavior is we get excited about the excitement. We don't get excited about the work and staying focused on that and having all of our mind and body focused to make that happen. But all of a sudden we want more to happen. We want something else to happen, more to happen, this to happen. No, don't stop, stop, stop. One thing, stay focused on it, get it created. Because when it is created, the suffering has occurred, the work has been accomplished. There's something that comes up from a depth inside of us that's hard to define, but the feeling is joy. We get to experience joy. Now, that joy, I've compared often to like a heroin addict taking methadone. It's just not the same. It's just not. But it's still really powerful and it's real. Now we get the next millimeter, get an inspired idea. Okay, get excited. Now we stay focused on the work on that, get it accomplished, experience joy again. You, the next piece for you is first is to be present in the now, millimeter creation. Number two is to stay there to create it so you can feel the joy of creation. That's number two. Number three, to start experiencing joy in the journey so that we can start to take a big, deep breath because you've just begun the journey of creating something as fast as is humanly possible. You sped up creation to its fastest possible pace by following this pattern. Oh, talk about disciplining your mind. You're starting to become aware that it's all over the place. Now just get it focused. The power sessions you talked about, critical. I'll focus all my efforts on the task at hand, and my actions will help me forget all else. Og says, I'll think not of my home when I'm in the workplace, because that'll cloud my judgment. I'll think not of my workplace when I'm at home, because that'll cloud my love, dampen my love. I'll stay divorced from both. It's not just home and family, it's task and task and task and task. Will cloud our judgment if we're trying to get too many things done. The switch tasking cuts down on time, makes it take longer, quality drops, and anxiety increases. We just know that's true. That's proven in studies. So we stay focused and we start to find peace. Because the question becomes this, and Amy, you're standing in proxy for everybody here tonight. Thank you for doing that. When you run around and you've got a million things to do, does anything ever get really done?
Never. And I can't think of a time in my life. I mean, childhood, birth, I think epigenetically, I was born this way, honest to God. And there's moments of joy and peace now that I've had in the last 5 years and doing the habits of health work and the neuroemotional repatterning and this work has been a cherry on top. I can experience what it is momentarily, but I don't know another reality.
Okay. I'm going to add two more pieces for you. It's my fueling time. Sorry, everybody. Just the way the day unfolded.
That's okay. I eat in front of people all the time.
So we're creating these millimeters. And what you'll start to get is greater levels of ability to stay here, to handle higher levels of responsibility with greater levels of ease. I take it you're a coach. Can you imagine having 40 clients, 35 coaches who've got hundreds of clients, and they're calling you and buzzing you every 5 seconds on top of your craziness right now?
No, I want to kill myself thinking about it.
No. By the way, we're putting things in motion for that to be simplified.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited. But you get this piece done, and you'll acquire increasing levels of ability to handle ever increasing levels of responsibility with ever increasing levels of ease. What does that mean? I'll get better at allocating my time in intentional creation and experiencing of joy. I'll start having moments in the day where I pause and I get an inspired idea, or I just pause and I'm just still. And I start to gain evidence that this is correct. Until you start gaining evidence, it's going to be hard to stay here.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
Yeah. So now your job is to start gaining that evidence. As you're gaining that evidence, you're actually acquiring greater levels of ability from the evidence to handle more responsibility with ease.
Mm-hmm.
What used to bury you and take all day, you solve 3 of them by 8 o'clock. They're no big deal because you've taken all the emotions out of it. You've taken all the fear out of it, all the craziness out of it. So it's just something that needs to be handled, gets to be handled. You can throw elephant in there again if you want to, somebody. So there we go.
Yeah.
It's the third one that's most interesting. I'm going to emphasize it tonight.
So it's possible to learn how to create. I constantly create things that I then experience as too much for me. So you're saying that's something that I'm going to learn.
You just fall in love with the process.
Okay.
You stop avoiding it with fantasy. You actually embrace it.
Okay.
And now you're gaining the ability. As you're gaining that ability, you start to see some opportunities you didn't see. I can promise you, Og Mandino in the book The Greatest Salesman in the World said, I seek not gold or garments, nor opportunities equal to my opportunities. Instead, I seek to acquire ability equal to my opportunities. As you're acquiring this ability, you'll see opportunities that have always been there. You just didn't see them. I had an experience like that this week, Amy. Had somebody call who was in trouble, former vice president of a Fortune 500 company, and I just showed up for him. We talked. Guess what he's doing in the morning? He's becoming an Optavia coach. I saw something in our discussion I would not have seen if I hadn't been acquiring ability in this area, like doing edge, for an example. You know what I mean when I say edge 30?
Mm-hmm.
And I had the impression I I do know I'm supposed to tell you this. This is me talking to him, but I don't know how it fits. And I shared it with him halfway through our conversation. At the end of the conversation, he says, whatever we do, I want to do that. Do what? Become a coach. I want to do that. So we're meeting tomorrow with some people on his staff who want to be on program. Amy, can you imagine a former vice president of a Fortune 500 company wanting to become an Optavia coach? Because it actually addresses his need. We don't need to go too deep into that. We've got lots of people here that are clients, and
Yeah.
it's just interesting how it unfolds when you see the opportunity. Now I'm going to take you to the third area, all of you to the third area. Ready for the third area? What happens when you follow this pattern? Is it painful at first? Yeah, you're overcoming a drug addiction. It's going to take focus. It's going to be painful. You're going to be suffering, but you'll have joy each time you create. It won't be dopamine joy. It'll be real joy. You get more of it and more of it, start collecting evidence so it gets easier to stay here. Then you start gaining that ability. You start seeing the opportunity, and then a door opens. You want to guess what that door is? I've quoted this so many times. I'm going to quote it again. Two atheists put it this way. At that point, you're in alignment with the force that orders the planets.
Mm.
If you have my belief system, you're in alignment with the creator of the universe.
It's blocking you from abundance. Your abundance that's yeah,
You want to have this is for me. Some of you may not believe in God, and that's okay.
hmm
The atheist couldn't describe it any other way than in alignment with the force that orders the planets. That's okay. There's no judgment if that's how you want to look at it. But they said it's not magic, but it's magical. They could hardly figure out how to explain it. And I'm telling you, there is something that happens, step 3 in the creation process, if, and everybody pay attention to the if. If you're creating something that's worthy, and that generally involves blessing somebody's life, now you're eligible to have that third step open up. Whether you believe in a power or just a force in the universe, it doesn't matter right now. I just know it opens. And when that opens, we speed up creation to its fastest possible pace. That becomes magical. You can't get to that third step living in fantasy. There's no force for good that's going to participate in an activity where we're trying to escape the work and have life just be easier and less stressful. Again, Og Mandino, scroll number 4 on self-esteem said, we're here for a purpose. That purpose is to grow into a mountain, not to shrink to a grain of sand. Henceforth, I'll apply all my efforts to become the highest mountain of all, and I'll strain my potential till it cries for mercy. We're here to grow, to take what we've been given and create the most we can with it. And there's nothing quite like creation to make it happen. And there's nothing quite like fantasy to destroy your self-esteem. I had this experience this week, all of you, talking to someone who was very good at fantasy, who had hit a wall in their life. And we weren't 3 minutes into the conversation, and this person burst into tears and said, God doesn't love me. I said, it has nothing to do with it. You're not in a process where he can even participate. That's why it's so frustrating. You're trying to circumvent a principle. Dr. A calls it structural tension. I call it creating in the millimeters. Whatever it is, we know that when we stay in the now in creation, something starts to happen, but we have to stay here long enough. We'll want to stay here long enough. See, I catch myself too. We'll want to stay here long enough to be able to experience the joy, to collect the evidence that only comes from staying in creation, to start seeing the opportunities that only come from growth in that opportunity, to unlock the power of the universe, which only comes when we've taken the first 2 steps. You want to create something magnificent? I just gave you the pattern. It applies to everything. From a really cool software program to a coaching practice to a real estate business, whatever it is, it's the same principle applied every single time. And if the goal that we have, the dream we want to create is blessing humanity, this principle applies. Now, Amy, it doesn't look like this is good news if I'm looking at your face.
Well, I feel like I'm this close to aligning with that force, and I'm blocking it.
You're blocking it. Yes.
And I'm blocking it, and I'm this close. I was this close before. It was far away before. Now I'm like this close. And I've got to find out the millimeters to stay in the present and go through the pain of being different, not doing different, but being different so that I have to be different does that make
Mhm.
it's not necessarily even about
Don't equate suffering to pain.
doing different.
It doesn't have to be painful because it's passion driven. It's just the work. We want to go through the work of it. We don't get to skip the work. That's the suffering, is the work. The work will want the work to be done. So it's either boring, mundane, burdensome, repetitive, and hard, or it's passion driven. We got a vision and we execute and we experience joy. Now, we spent a lot of time on this tonight. If we didn't do anything else tonight, This would be the most important thing we can do on this topic of self-worth. Because the number one, by far, cause of self-esteem challenges is the inappropriate use of this creative power.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
because it's like I can see it, I can almost taste it. Why can't I have it? What's wrong with me? Does God not love me? Some people take it that far if that's a belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something I did when I was a teenager? Is that the reason why I lost my inheritance? I can promise you that tonight we have 55 people on here, and there's probably 40 of you who have had that thought process. Is this happening this way because of what I did when I was? Yeah, thank you, Betty. You got it. I just want to tell you, with all the love in the world, that's nonsense.
Yep.
It's simply we want to escape and avoid. Remember, we made the decision in the first segment I choose to live,
Mm-hmm.
not to escape and avoid, not to have life be easier and less stressful. I'm choosing to live. Then I'm going to choose me. And tonight we're going to choose to serve. We make those three fundamental shifts, and all of a sudden things start to shift in our life. Now, what's fun for you, Amy? And you just said it, and for everyone else here. Now you know. You may not have known when you started this class. I know very few people in the world who know what we just talked about. I get called into situations all the time. Someone raised $5 million to start a company, and you got a founder that's a fantasizer? Holy heck, what a mess. There aren't any initiatives, any plans, any goals, any dreams, no millimeters in place. It's just, we're going to create this. Yes, let's go create this. It never gets created, or it's just chaos. And you can take that from that to I'm at home, I've been raising children, I've decided to get on program. I love what it's done for me, so I want to become a coach. And I want to create this. I want to have a big business. I want to help lots of people. Well, the truth of the matter is nobody's been teaching this. It has been get on your sailboat in your mind, cardigan, sweater, glass of wine, wind blowing through your hair. Really just feel it with all kinds of intention, and the universe will start to show up and manifest. The universe does show up and manifest when you get to stage 3 of creating in the millimeters. That's a truth. But when it's taught from an escape and avoid, fantastical world, it's a lie. And does it sell, Amy? Oh my goodness. The people who teach this make millions of dollars. Well, their followers just become broken, and angry. Could we collectively make the decision tonight to break this chain in our own life, starting with our own health? Clear, millimeters, stay faithful, get an inspired idea. Suffer? Well, I was hungry today and it's okay, that's the price. And when you wake up the next morning, you step on the scale and you're down 2 pounds and you're like, yeah, that feeling of accomplishment because you know you paid the price. That relationship is priceless. So, Amy, thanks for being the guinea pig tonight. You're awesome.
Oh, here's to letting go of drug addiction. And I thought sugar was hard. This is going to be a doozy.
I think we ought to have optoria rehab. What do you think?
I think getting over to the sugar is going to be way easier than this.
I'm going to write an article about that. I'm going to do a live. Optavia rehab. Join the Optavia rehab.
Truly, truly. And I'm in touch with the 12 steps, so I completely agree with this. I'm with you on it all because uh,
12 steps, that's perfect.
yeah, yeah.
Are you acquainted of, this is a personal question, because of someone in your life or because of your life?
My husband's recovering 12, 15 years, but I was addicted to dysfunctional relationships since birth and Codependence Anonymous for years, and then OA, and then Codependence Anonymous again, then AA with my husband, and
Hmm? Well, we have the big book right there.
it's a good book.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason for alcohol abuse, remember when we're feeling pain, the brain wants to anesthetize the pain.
Yep,
Food,
yep,
alcohol, for both men and women, is number two.
yep.
It's
I love.
anesthetizing pain.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, when he was sober, he used to say, good news is I'm sober. The bad news is I'm sober.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, emotional sobriety, I think, is harder than drug.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let's pause right there. Thank you. I want to go to our workbook because I think it's important that we go here. We have our affirmations here, just like before. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. I am becoming unconditional. I am becoming confident. You got your affirmations. Please get those into a phone. Our 5 causes of low self-esteem. We just spent a lot of time on the one that is the most critical. No question. The second one we spent a lot of time the second week on. I choose me. And that's why we spent time on creation. Then we spent time on I choose me because they're the number 1 and number 2 by far. Now, comparison is an interesting piece. I'm going to say something and you can write it down. I could get in trouble by saying it because some people will misunderstand. Please rise above that for a moment. I don't look up to anyone other than deity. I have great respect, admiration, deference, they would call it, for a lot of people. But deference is deference versus worship. You see, when we look up to people, we, we are less than. We're comparing ourselves with them. We are less than. Hero worship. I was working with a company that's going to be promoting Habit Finder Health, that's working with the NFL and a fan base. Boy, fans can really get idolatrous in terms of how they view their sports idols. That's kind of scary. When someone invests their life in a person, we want to be very careful not to do that. Because if we look up to some, inevitably we'll look down to others. Both are comparison and both are deadly. I'm less than, but at least I'm not. You don't want to play that game ever. Deference, that respect, that admiring someone's uniqueness, their gifting, that's wonderful. The comparison is deadly. Damaged trust. Um, this is any time something's happened that the brain wasn't expecting. And we have a tendency to put a grade of seriousness on things that damage trust, like sexual child abuse right at the top, um, abusive spouse right at the top. And those are serious. There's no question. But someone can be in the fifth grade and told that they are terrible at math and be paralyzed for the rest of their life. That was my sweetheart until about 20 years ago. We're deep into these principles, and she faced her math. She had all of her college work done except for math. Never graduated. Went back to school, took a remedial algebra class, got a 4.0, and then took a math class and got a 4.0. She finally broke through. The trauma, the trauma created by that fifth grade teacher she had. Wow. I just emphasize that because sometimes the trauma that is creating self-worth issues isn't in the category of sexual abuse or emotional abuse. It's a different kind of a thing that happened. An injury, witnessing something. There can be all kinds of things that can damage trust. This I know. You want to be open that if you're still trying to process through it or struggling with it, therapeutic intervention is a really good idea. It's a good idea. Safe place to work through it. In coaching, it's when you're ready to move forward, that's a good place. Because sometimes we can peel away the layers of the onion and then we get the booby prize. Like, okay, now I know. Now what do I do? If you're at now what do I do, then you just work through this with a coach. If you don't know, work through it with a therapist. But it's very real. And there's a lot of it right now. Now, I might tell you one of the most insidious forms of trauma. It's reached this level. Comes from an unmet expectation. When we hold life hostage and it doesn't happen, and our sympathetic nervous system goes from that crazy norepinephrine and dopamine to cortisol, stress hormone, that's a horrific shift. And then the activation of our amygdala and the shutting down of our prefrontal cortex, which renders us emotionally paralyzed. That's very traumatic. If it happens over and over and over and over again, it's really a painful process. So damaged trust can come from that as well. Number 4, secrets. Just examine your life for a moment. Is there anything that happens in a secret that if somebody had a camera and you discovered they were watching, you would be terribly embarrassed? You would never do it in private with your family or friends, and certainly not in public. If there's anything like that, there's generally serious things, drug addictions, sex addictions, eating disorders, those kinds of things, serious ones. Not that I ate a dozen donuts last week. I mean, most of us at some point in time have had a dozen donuts when we were on program. It's just what happens. This is something more serious than that. If it is, and there is an addiction to it, you may want to seek therapeutic intervention there as well, because there's confusion. Here I am stepping back and looking at my life. There's my secret self, there's my private self, there's my public self, and I don't really know which one I am. We would say something like, am I this despicable person who does this in secret? Am I the one that my private people don't know that I do that, so I have to pretend? And in public, do I have to pretend even more? Brene Brown's conversation around that, where we feel disingenuous, imposter syndrome, that's a killer. Just know for discussion tonight, the one closest to who you really are is the person on stage. That's when you're on your best behavior, when you're most conscious of what you're thinking and how you're acting. That's the closest to your true self. If you want to know your true self, have these affirmations from these three areas: mental creation, personal fulfillment, and self-worth, and just listen to them over and over and over again. That's your true self. You may be sitting in another chair and you want to become this, but when you become this, this is your true self. This is who you're built to be. That's a wonderful thing to know. And the last one is accomplishment driven. Um, we're seeing a lot of, I was talking to Meg Weinkoff this afternoon, who did our doctoral dissertation on Habit Finder and transformational leadership, and why in corporate America things are really upside down right now, because everybody has to give all they have to a business. I mean, all that they have, sometimes the expense of their families. And their worth can be tied directly to how well they do, and the pay they receive and the acknowledgement they receive. And yet we live in a world where if economics slow down, they just let them go. It's really a weird place right now for someone who's accomplishment driven. We want to get away from that. We still want to do really well, but not at the expense of our self-worth. We see this not with Patrick. He's a pretty solid guy, but a lot of NFL quarterbacks, you look at their habit finder assessment, and their worth is based on their performance. It has been since they were children. That's crazy. Anybody have any questions about these five? We really fleshed out the first one, unmet expectations. Does anybody want to have me flesh out one of the others just a little bit more? Okay. Because I want to get to a piece that's really critical, but we've got about 15 minutes. We want to be able to heal our esteem, our worth. We've actually been working on this for the last 3 weeks. When we create in millimeters and we get an inspired idea and act on it, I'm going to read to you right out of the Observer's Chair. There's a really wonderful affirmation section at the very end. In fact, it is called My Freedom Declaration. We don't have time to read the whole thing, but I'll read just a little bit of it. It says, when I'm sitting in the chair of the observer, being my true self, free from the noise of my unhealthy habits of thinking and the burdens of the past, I use my gift of vivid visualization to hear inspired whispers and see visions of possibilities. You all know you get them. Most of us have been talking ourselves out of them. That's when you get this impression to call someone, and then you don't make the phone call, or you don't send a text message. When I'm releasing those unhealthy habits and burdens of the past, I use my gift of vivid visualization to hear inspired whispers. That means we'll want to have some stillness in our life. And Amy, I love you talk about that frenetic energy, because when we're in that, there's no stillness. We don't get to hear those impressions. I'm having so much fun every morning in quiet, identifying 3 people to connect with. I met with 2 of them today. Oh, it was just a precious conversation. My passion is ignited. I trust my intuition and act immediately on those whispers and visions as if they were urgent assignments. Next time you get an inspired idea, think about it as an urgent assignment. You've been asking for, who should I talk to? How can I talk to? How can I serve? You get the inspired idea. Well, act on it as if it's an urgent assignment. This is an affirmation, so it reads an I discover. I discover the validity of each, the accuracy. And in so doing, I trust and am trusted. I know and am known. And this knowingness is the single greatest source for healing my self-worth. That's why we covered creation to begin with. At the core of creating in millimeters is getting an inspired idea, then acting on it, suffering, doing the work, and then experiencing the joy. That is really exciting when we get an idea, inspired idea, we act on it, it actually turns out to be inspired. Wow. Number two, we didn't get into power sessions quite as much as we sometimes do because other things were more important. But go back to the second section on personal fulfillment and read those couple, 3 pages on power sessions. The purpose for a power session is for you to spend time with your true self, free of this noise. You know, we talk about, I procrastinate. Well, I procrastinate because the noise in my head is louder than the noise from the task. It takes a deadline for the noise of the task to scream louder than the noise in my head. When it finally does, I shut off the noise in my head. I unleash my natural genius. I get the task completed, and I'm surprised. Wow, that wasn't so hard. Wow, why did I wait so long? Most of us live in that space. Delay, 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 jump in, surprise. We could expand that. Delay, delay, delay. Shut off the noise in my head, embrace my genius, execute, surprise. When we start setting self-imposed deadlines, that's what a power session is. It's just simply a self-imposed deadline that allows you to access your genius on demand. If we lived in power sessions, our lives would be so different. And number 3 is today. I hope you had a chance to go listen to the TED Talk I gave you last week. If not, please go to Dave Blanchard, TEDx, Riverdale, Utah, and watch that TEDx talk. We talk about the Chicago dream. In short, your single greatest asset are your painful life experiences. Period. Your single greatest asset is your painful life experiences. If you get them out of that sack you're dragging them around in, where we often use them as all the reasons why we are where we are. Well, I'm having trouble staying on program because of that when it happened to me, and it just keeps coming up. We use it as reasons for not being on our health plan. We use it as reasons for not building a business if that's what we have. It's all kinds of reasons. Everybody have another name for reasons? It's a it's an awkward word. We just don't like it. Excuses. They're excuses. And if we pick those up and say, man, I've been dragging this around like a burden, I'm going to start using it differently. I want to use it to bless other people's lives. So I'm going to put it in my heart, and I'm going to start listening to people. I'll give you in just a moment the steps so you can do this. But when you get it here, it's no longer available to be an excuse. You get to now be totally accountable for the outcome in your life. Totally accountable. That's a thrilling way to live. And you get to have the blessing of having this available that when you're listening, Dan Goldman talks about this in social intelligence. He calls it the mind-bone barrier. He said, we're designed that if we're really paying attention to someone, to start feeling what they're feeling because of our empathetic reference points. We're listening to them, but it's triggering what we've experienced if it's in our heart, if it's here for us to use. Wow. Do you ever feel like doing this? And you see somebody go, oh, finally, somebody understands me. Greatest gift we give a human being is to feel understood. And when they feel understood, their wall comes down. And everybody's got one. When it comes down, their energy and cooperation, which is dammed up behind that wall, measured at the University of Tennessee, is on average in a non-adversarial relationship as 40% of their energy and cooperation. Now, if you're presenting something to someone and you want them to do something, that generally goes up higher. The wall goes up higher. They're holding back even more. So when it finally comes down, when they feel understood, that floods out and fills the hole in your soul. And that is an amazing healing tool. In the dream, when I took my life experiences and put them in my heart, that's what I was told. David, your character was forged in the furnace of adversity. I could look around this room and just pick almost any one of you. Amy, you were so kind this evening, so I'll use you, Amy. Your character is forged in the furnace of adversity. You know what pain feels like. Can you take back those experiences? No. But you can choose to use them as a reference point to better understand what someone else is going through. And if you use them this way, there'll finally be purpose in that suffering. We don't have to drag it around as a victim. It's now has purpose. There's joy in our journey as we practice connection. And there's much needed healing in our soul as we receive that energy and cooperation. You want to heal self-esteem? Who would have thought the way to do that is to get an inspired idea and act on it, prove it's inspired, to spend time with your natural genius, and to spend time with your own painful experiences in your heart, listening and serving another person. That's why the label for tonight is I choose to serve. I give you the 5 steps really quickly because we're almost out of time. Gosh, we never have enough to cover everything in the depth that it deserves. But by the way, all of these areas for self-esteem challenges have a page on each one of them. And on the basic steps, which I just basically talked about. Here's the steps. We want tonight to start noticing what's important to other people. Wherever you go, grocery store, bank. And here's a clue. It most likely won't be important to you. Can we get outside ourselves and see what's important to another person? I don't want a tattoo, but anybody who would spend that kind of money to put ink on their body, I want to know the story. And there always is one. Somebody dyes their hair blue. People don't dye their hair blue to be invisible. But sometimes people treat them like they are. Could we notice the blue hair? Can we notice the server at the restaurant when we're not getting great service and how many tables they're taking care of and what are they thinking about in terms of drink orders and food orders and how do they keep track of all of that? You care enough to do that, you'll bring down walls and have incredible experiences. Let's just start noticing. By the way, there's a page on noticing. Listening. We want to be safe. I'm going to encourage you all to set a time with a partner where you just sit knee to knee and you ask a question. What's the hardest thing about being you? And for the next 10 minutes, with a timer on, you're just going to listen. And all you can say is, tell me more about that. I'm listening. Anything else would be important for me to know? And an empathetic question if it comes to the surface. No fixes. That's not where the value is. We've all been trained to fix and give advice and solve problems. That is not the gift. In fact, when we jump into that, when there's still a wall, we are just in damage control. Well, why won't they listen to me? It makes so much sense. It's not they don't want to listen to you. They just have a wall. That's all. You threw up on it. It's splashed back. It's vomit. It tastes terrible. So we get to really listen. Then we get to ask empathetic questions when they come to the surface. And if we don't know the questions to ask, we don't yet really understand where they are. That's where it stops with a personal relationship. Thanks for sharing. Gosh, thanks for listening. In business, we evaluate the moment, assess the timing and the value. Is this a value that I want to share? Is it the right time? Are they ready? Then I gain agreement. When we're listening to you, I have two things I think might serve you. May I share them with you? And then we share. In that particular section, there's some information on how to handle objections. In short, they're not questions that need an answer. They're a statement that deserves a question. The last thing for tonight. To be real, genuine, and authentic without the need to impress, pretend, feel shame, or fear. This is the most difficult task in our mortal existence and the highest level of maturity. There's a sentence before this when he said the objective is to be real, genuine, and authentic. Real means comfortable having conversations. Genuine, bringing your genius fully to the service of another person. And authentic is anthos hecticus, being your true self, the green in your measurement. No need to impress or pretend or feel shame or fear. Maturity has very little to do with age and everything to do with mindset. Have some fun with this so that we can become real, genuine, and authentic. Wow. Thanks, Karen. Seems like every time we do this, we touch on a few different things. You're sure welcome to come back. I think we've got like one more 6 o'clock session before we shut down for the month of July. We won't have Habit Finder during the month of July because we've got the 4th of July and then the national meeting for Optavia. So the coaches will be very busy that month. So we'll take that month off. But if you want to try this one more time before the summer comes, jump into the link that you have here. I think it's here, or will be shortly. habitfinderhealth.com/group. Get registered for the next session that starts a week from today at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Love to be able to serve you. Now, should you make the decision to come back, first of all, thank you for so many videos being on. It's just awesome for me. If you come back, I want you to go through those 5 causes of self-esteem and check which ones fit. And next time we go through this, be working on those specific issues. When we're learning how to create, you're working on unmet expectations. When we're working on owning your own gifting, we're working on comparison. Let's really take it a little bit deeper, because we'll have new people on the line they're there for the first time, they get to have that experience. But you certainly can take this deeper each time to get a little bit more clear. Because ultimately, you want to become the master of your thought processes, the dominant force in your life. That's what Dr. A calls it. I love that. Okay, blessings, everyone. We will hopefully see you soon. If I don't see you here, wherever I see you, I love to give a hug, so I love to get hugs. And can I thank Amy tonight for being so gracious? And I think we'd be amiss if we didn't thank Kathy for that night we had when she shared her story. It continues to touch people's lives. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Good night.